Published, 22:27 Eastern Standard Time, 7th of January 2018. Updated, 2300 Eastern Standard Time, 7th of January 2018. With a stricken captain and a rampant Pat Cummins hostile to the last, England's ship went down quickly after lunch to leave them with a predictable 4-0 drubbing in this Ashes series. Small consolation was that they managed to take this into a fifth afternoon. Indeed, this was the first encounter between the two sides since 1995 in which every match lasted into a final day. The result was nonetheless a crushing defeat by an innings and 123 runs. The tourists' fate effectively sealed on the first day when they lost 2 late wickets, having been in control at 233 for 3. Steve Smith raises the urn as Australia celebrates sealing a 4-0 Ashes victory over England at the SCG on Monday. The Australian players show 4 fingers to the camera to celebrate the 4-0 win in front of the SCG pavilion. Pat Cummins celebrates taking the wicket of Mason Crane as Australia surge towards victory on the final day in Sydney. England captain Joe Root gets down on his haunches as he battles his way to a half-century and through to lunch. That turned out to be the last big moment that England lost, and it all came to a predictable enough conclusion when they were bowled out for 180, just over an hour into the second session. Some will say that they were doomed from the moment of Ben Stokes's altercation outside a Bristol nightclub, but the ultimate margin suggests a gulfing class between the sides in Australian conditions that he would not have bridged. While the hosts had found it heavy going in the morning, the fact that sickness prevented Joe Root from coming out after lunch suggested that the end would soon be nigh. 10 minutes after the restart, Johnny Bairstow's 143-ball vigil was brought to an abrupt halt when he played across a full delivery from Pat Cummins and was plumb LBW for 38. The short ball barrage at Stuart Broad was brief and brutal, and in his next over he could only fend off a snorter to wicket-keeper Tim Payne. Cummins, now armed with a new ball, then produced a vicious lifter that found the edge of debutant Mason Crane to give Payne another straightforward catch. Root arrived at the Sydney Cricket Ground during the first over of play with a hospital tag wrapped around his left wrist. Root inspects his helmet as he comes out to bat after the fall of Moeen Ali in the first hour of play. On the fifth day, the England captain takes a swig of water as he suffered with illness after being hospitalised on Monday morning in Sydney. Root shows the strain after being unable to resume his overnight innings and then being forced to retire ill at lunch. The England skipper raises his bat to acknowledge the applause from the crowd after reaching his half-century. Tom Curran and James Anderson mounted some last-ditch resistance, and the number 11 held out for 23 balls before he supposedly edged behind. It looked like the Lancastrian might have avoided contact, but there were no DRS referrals left hand. In any case, it was all somewhat superfluous. The captain remained marooned back in the pavilion unbeaten on 58 and was not well enough to come out for the handshakes afterwards. Cummins ended with 4 for 39 and was named man of the match. Root had bravely held on before lunch after rising from his sickbed to join the survival effort. The Yorkshire batsman, sometimes resting on his bat for support between overs, was still there, having played out half a session in the company of Bairstow as the tourists defied Australian expectations of a swift victory. At lunch, the captain had moved to 58 in temperatures more forgiving than the extreme heat of Sunday. England were 144 for 5 with Bairstow unbeaten on 38. They were still 159 runs away from making the hosts bat again, but on a relatively easy-paced pitch there was only 1 wicket that fell. With a new ball due 5 overs after lunch, thoughts of a miraculous escape needed to be tempered. Root had arrived at the ground before the start of play from hospital, with an England spokesman later saying that the main cause of his problem was a gastroenteritis bug, more than dehydration. He was spared batting duty for an hour as Bairstow and Moeen Ali played watchfully before the spottily populated stands on this final day, with the entry charge a donation to Glenn McGrath's breast cancer charity. Moeen had looked the less secure of the two, with his nemesis Nathan Lyon inevitably brought into the attack against the promoted batsman. Nathan Lyon appealed successfully for the wicket of Moeen Ali, the first of the final day at the SCG on Monday. Pat Cummins celebrates the crucial breakthrough for Australia after lunch after dismissing Johnny Bairstow LBW. Johnny Bairstow equipped himself well during a battling rearguard but played across a full delivery from Pat Cummins. Pat Cummins ended with 4 for 39 to spearhead Australia's push for victory on the final day of the Ashes series. Had moved to 13 when Lyon took hold over him again. Pushing forward against a ball that only slightly deviated, it beat his bat and hit his front pad right in front of the wicket, dispatching him back to the pavilion in familiar fashion. Lyon has dismissed him 7 times, equaling the record for a bowler having success against one particular opponent in one series. Moeen is left with an average just under 20 over the 5 matches. Root arrived to a standing ovation from the loyal band of England optimists, and looked comfortable enough as he resumed on 42. He was soon acknowledging his 50 when he smartly clipped Lyon round the corner, getting another rapturous ovation. The skipper's assault of Cameron Bancroft at short leg continued when he pulled the ball straight at the fielder's helmet, but he was clearly struggling physically. 15 minutes before lunch he called for a drink and sank to one knee while he drank it. Australia seemed relatively flat in the field with too many balls straying down leg, and Bairstow looked admirably unflustered. Lunch appeared to refresh them, and the end when it came was swift, although hardly merciful.